how are you this evening?
I'm in such an incredible mood, Alistair. You
I
know
I
why
can
that
see that.
is?
Yeah, I've got an inkling of why that is, but what I find really quite remarkable is we were just while you were away there, we were sitting watching Nicola Sturgeon pontificating about the present state of the party when she is the exact person that is responsible for the demise of the SNP completely, totally, and utterly. She is the one that's responsible for that. And there she is sitting in a television studio, getting paid good money to give her opinion on things when she is the one that brought down that party.
Yes, she
And
has.
I wonder if that's going to be put to her. I wonder if that point is going to be put to her. It was her hubris in thinking that she could bring in all of that crazy gender stuff, and her hubris in the money that was going on there, and that everything that happened under her reign. She is the one that's responsible for bringing down the SNP. And they say the exit poll there, the poll that we saw, 10 seats. Well, I've seen an exit poll just recently that says 6 seats on my phone here. And I don't know if you're able to bring that one up. Oh,
Wow,
no,
where
hang
are you
on.
seeing
1, 2,
this?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seats. 7 seats.
This is music to my ears, Alistair. Are you telling me that 10 is going to be diminished to 6? Are you serious?
This is I don't know if that's ITV or BBC, but that's the Scottish exit poll. So you're looking at
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
seven.
Wow.
7.
But where's on the list? Where is Aberdeen South? Oh my God. You know what that means, guys?
It's
You know what that
Skeletor.
means? Skeletor watch. Where is he? Where is he? Skeletor watch. Oh my God. Oh well, I have to have a wee toast to that, Alistair. Again,
well, let me toast that to you as well.
Thank you very much, my friend. What it is, first of all, I wanted to congratulate you yourself. You've been putting out anti-SNP content and pro-union content for the longest time. And a lot of people might overlook Alistair and the Force for Good, but they are doing such an incredible job at just exposing the SNP and, more importantly, promoting the union. Right? There's not enough of that. There's a lot of demolishing the SNP and diminishing what the SNP is, but there's never enough of promoting the union and what the union is and what it does.
Absolutely. Promoting British culture, the British Constitution, British history, and British heritage, because our democracy is something that's so important. And I've been a Democrat all my life, and I've stood for Parliament and Scottish Parliament and European Parliament more times than I can remember. And we can talk about that maybe later. But I am a nationalist. Like, I am a British nationalist. I love the British nation. And I don't go along with I'm a patriot, I'm not a nationalist. No, if you believe in the nation, you're a nationalist. And in that sense, I'm also a Scottish nationalist, because I love Scotland and I love Scotland's history and its heritage and its constitution and culture. And just yesterday, myself and our team of another 11 people, we were on the Royal Mile, shouting as we do, waving our flags against a group, a London-based group called Republic, who were up from England to be rude to the King and Queen and the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh and Prince William. So we were upholding the British end, as we always like to say, and as we always do as well. And that's just so important as well, to be on the streets and showing the flag, and that's our niche. And I totally get and I totally respect others who have their own niche and who do their own niche much better than we could possibly fill it. But we fill our particular niche, which is all about, the red, white, and blue, as you can see. And that we're good at that. And we've been doing that now for almost 13 years. So, yeah, a great result tonight. And if we look at that exit poll again, if you want to, it's interesting.
Yeah, if you bring it up, if we put it up,
the Tory votes as well. The Tories have got 12 seats. Now, they wanted 12 seats. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, including the very marginal ones of Dumfries and Dumfriesshire.
Yes.
Obviously, we'll have to wait just to see how that works out. But I know a couple in one of those seats, and they both wanted to vote reform, but they also wanted to vote tactically also for the Tories. So they came up with a really clever answer. One of them voted tactically and the other voted for reform. And so they balanced that one out that way. And I thought that's very clever. So if we just go through them from the top there, Aberdeen South. Now that wasn't one of the target seats. That Skeletor seat, that was not a target seat. And the exit polls saying that they won that one. Aberdeen North was a target seat, as was
Aberdeen North. Am I right in saying that is Douglas Ross that is contesting that seat? Aberdeenshire North and Moray? No.
I'll be able to tell you in a second. Aberdeenshire North. Yes, that's Douglas Ross. That's Douglas Ross. Aberdeenshire West was also a target seat that they've won, as was Angus, as was Argyll, as was Berwickshire, as was Dumfries, as was Dumfriesshire, as was Gordon, as was Moray West. Now, Perth.
And Perth would mean that Pete Wishart has lost his seat and Luke Graham has now become an MP.
Yes. And Stirling, that was not a target seat. So the Tories have had if that's going to be a reflection of reality, the Tories have had a very good night in Scotland anyway, not so much in Englandshire.
I'm looking at let's see what this gentleman is saying.
Manifesto in this election, as I say on page 1, line 1, front and centre, a vote for the SNP is a vote for independence. John Swinney told me a vote for the SNP is a vote for independence, and he told me as well a vote for any other party risks damaging the independence cause going forward. Stephen Flynn, the SNP's leader at Westminster, told me in an interview, independence is on the ballot paper. Now, I'm being told by some of the people here tonight, some of the SNP staffers who are saying, well, this was about change at Westminster. We've been caught up in this election about taking out the Tories. But the SNP set the terms. These were their terms. This was also about independence in Scotland. And if this exit poll is to be believed, the people of Scotland have had their say, and perhaps the message is that independence for them is not a priority right now. That's going to be something that's going to be carrying into the next election, because what's crucial, Tom, is that although Prime Ministers have ignored the SNP and said, no, now is not the time, Nicola Sturgeon was on the receiving end of a few of those messages back from starting with Theresa May after the Brexit vote, and there was a huge clamour to have another vote in Scotland. But what I think is important to remember is that if the SNP had won a majority on these terms that were crystal clear,
they would have demanded a referendum.
It would have been extremely hard for Keir Starmer to shrug that off. It would have been a thorn in his side for the next 5 years. They would have to address it, have to acknowledge it, that the people of Scotland had an opportunity to have their say, and they would have backed that message. The people of Scotland had that opportunity, and it does not look like they have backed that. It's now going to be much
this is incredible, Alistair. It really is. We'll get this away. We'll get us back on the screen. This is simply incredible. If we are to believe these exit polls, where does the SNP go from here, Alistair?
I don't think it goes very far, really. For the next 2 years, it's going to be staying at Holyrood. And politics is going to change in Scotland very, very remarkably. And it's not necessarily going to change for the better, because I think Ash alluded to this in the first person that you interviewed, the fabulous Preston journalist. And he was just pointing out the danger of this Labour government and the danger of something like that having, 410 seats in the exit poll. That will turn it into a dictatorship. And that's not good for the country at all. And Labour governments are never good for the country. We at A Force for Good did not advocate we left it up to people to decide, because we understand both sides of the equation, the tactical voting and the voting on your heart and so on. And I can understand that. So we just kind of stayed out of that and left it up to other people. But the fact of a massive Labour domination in the United Kingdom, including in Scotland, they've got nothing good planned for us, in our view, nothing good at all.
No.
And, you know, the next few years are going to be categorized not so much now by Scottish so-called independence or separation, but by the massive influx of huge numbers of people into our islands. Now, we've seen what happened in the Republic of Ireland, and I personally, and I do hope I'm wrong, but I have no doubt that Labour have the same plans for us here in the United Kingdom. And they will try to do it. And especially for us in Scotland, which is the very worrying thing. Anybody who saw the headline in the Herald on Sunday, Labour aims to work with SNP to encourage immigrants to live in Scotland. So forget the Rwanda plan. It's going to be the Scotland plan. And I think it was unconscionable, quite frankly, this sort of thing. So that's what we're going to be facing. The saving grace, and I'll believe it when I see it, is if there's 13 reform candidates.
Yes.
And that is astonishing. I mean,
Massive.
That's the story of the night, really.
Yes, it is.
For a party to come from nothing and to win by first past the post is unheard of, at least in my life. Yeah. And I back in the day, I stood for UKIP many times. And I mean, we would get to save your deposit, you need 5% of the vote in your constituency. And we wouldn't even get 1%. We wouldn't even get 0.5%. We'd struggle at 0.1, 0.2% most of the time. So the idea of even winning a deposit is amazing for an insurgent party like that, let alone to come second, as they came second in Sunderland just there with almost 12,000 votes. Now, Sunderland is a bit of a bellwether. So if they didn't win Sunderland, I'm fingers crossed that they'll win other seats, but I'm sure they'll win Clacton. I'm sure they'll win Lee Anderson's seat. And if they win on any others on top of that, that would be absolutely amazing. And they may well do it, because I know here in Glasgow, lots of people voting for reform. On our street stalls, we have street stalls regularly each month in the heart of Glasgow on Saturdays, and the number of people last week who came up to us and said that they're voting reform was just very unusual. You know, when you've got somebody standing talking to you wearing a Celtic top, telling you that he's voting reform, you know something is up.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it looks like they may well win deposits in Scotland, and that's to say they'll get 5% of the vote in some of these constituencies, maybe in many of the constituencies, in which case that means in 2026, after we've suffered 2 horrible years of Labour opening the borders and flooding people into Scotland and into the villages and towns of Scotland, politics will have changed in such a way that people will now start to vote for reform, and reform can get a body into the Scottish Parliament. Because what's happening in the Republic of Ireland is there is no voices in the mainstream, no voices in Parliament, or the Irish name for it, that will oppose it. And so the system, the establishment, knows it's got free rein because there is no voices opposing it in Parliament. And so we don't have any voices. I mean, the Tories in Holyrood might squeak a little bit, but they'll get put down by the Labour rights, the SNP and the Lib Dems and the horrible Green Goblins. But if we can get reform guys in, then at least they can kick up a fuss. But that's the thing. They've got to have the heart and the muscle to do it, because they're going to get absolutely attacked. There you go. That's us on our street stall there.
Incredible activism.
Yes.
Alistair, it really is. And this is a thing you're getting. It's a different thing being on the digital domain, Alistair, isn't it? And it's than being on the streets. And on the streets, you're really getting a more in-depth, sort of accurate representation of how people are feeling. Because I mean, not everyone's going to give you a correct, not correct conversation, an honest conversation online, but on the streets, face to face, you can almost tell if someone's being genuine or not. And the fact that you said you've got Celtic supporters coming up to you and saying they're voting reform is just unheard of, really, here in Scotland. It's unthinkable. And before the exit polls had come out, I thought it would be unthinkable to think that reform might end up with more MPs than the SNP. That's just absolutely incredible. And you're right about you're right to point out that in British history, it's very, very rare, if not. It feels like an impossible task to come from a new party to then go to winning first past the post. It really is one of these things. It's impossible. It's like climbing Everest in a few hours. It really is. It feels like an impossible task.
Yes.
But for Reform to do it with such gusto and such rapid fashion, it does give us a wee bit of hope going into the future. I think Scotland's future does have quite a home for reform, if I'm honest. I think you're right in what you're saying. If you want to hold up that paper again and just give the nightmare feel to the viewers, with 2,300 people watching this, Labour aims to work with the SNP to encourage immigrants to live in Scotland.
Yeah, and what I found very interesting with was Jackie Bailey's comments, and everybody saw Jackie Bailey wonderful, isn't she? Like the only intelligent Labourite that there is. Well, I'm afraid she's kind of lost a wee bit of that standing here, because the Herald on Sunday asked Ms. Bailey how Labour planned to keep the support of Yes supporters who had switched to them in order to remove the Tories. And she replied, quote, "Because while we might fundamentally disagree on one issue, which is the Constitution, we are absolutely in lockstep on a whole range of other issues which the Scottish Parliament is responsible for," close quote. Absolutely in lockstep. And she's hinting here that they're going to promote a particular immigration policy for Scotland, where the Scottish Parliament can set the visas for study and work specifically in Scotland, as if we don't have enough immigrants, as if my local supermarket doesn't have enough immigrants, and more immigrants every single time I go into it each week, So these people are going to bugger up our country in the next 5 years. That is just taken for read. And quite frankly, if you elect an SNP person, Ash said the same point. He or she sits in Westminster, doesn't have any power. You elect a Labourite, they're going to bugger up your country.
Of course.
So anyway, we've got 410 of them. But again, the saving grace is that we've got some reform people in, and they will be able to speak to the majority. And it will be interesting to see the percentage of reform votes in Scotland as well. Anything over 5% in any constituency is amazing, and it will signal candidates getting elected.
I feel like when I'm looking at these exit polls at Reform on 13 and SNP on 10, I think Reform are almost like they've walked on water here in Scotland by getting just the Goldilocks level of vote share without impacting the SNP's demise, Alistair. I mean, before this election, before the exit polls had come out, it felt like the Reform could have inadvertently allowed an SNP MP to slip in under the net just by virtue of taking votes off the Tories.
Yes.
It looks like they've avoided that.
Yes, it looks like they've avoided that, and it's been a strange combination of several. We're talking before the results are even out here. These are exit polls, I know, but it will be, if this is accurate, it will be down to some tactical voting. It'll also be down to various turnout as well, and it will be down to SNP people going over to Labour as well, reducing the SNP vote. Like, for example, in Dumfries, we've yet to see what the figures are, but if the Tories sneaked in, it will be because of some people voting Tory tactically, and some people going from SNP to Labour, and thereby reducing the SNP vote. So, I mean, it all works out at the end of the day, you know, and it all works out in a funny way. And that's one of the amazing things about first past the post. Not a particular advocate as such, but I do see its values. What is also going to be interesting is to see the overall reform vote, because back in 2015, in the general election back then, UKIP, which was the pre-runner to reform and to the Brexit Party, got almost 4 million votes, and they got one candidate elected, and that was in Clacton.
Oh, really?
And yes, and so 4 million votes. Now, this time round, they'll probably have much more than 4 million votes. They might even have more votes than the Lib Dems, even though the Lib Dems, because of the way
that's
the
a
first
great point,
Alistair, system
actually
works, is they'll have many more MPs. So yes, it's going to be interesting to see, and I think reform's going to come in England, going to come in very strong second place in quite a few places as well. And
the popular vote will be quite a sight to behold, Alistair.
Yes, well, for me, that's always the crucial thing, because I mean, even if the SNP had got the majority of seats in Scotland, which is to say 29 out of 57, that would still be a minority of the popular vote. And certainly a minority of the electoral vote as well. In fact, I've covered all the previous elections in my new book, One Big Country, available from Amazon.co.uk. I look at all these kind of stats in here, and I show that the SNP have never had a majority of the electorate ever in any election voting for them, whether at Holyrood or Westminster. And so the claims for a mandate are always very outside of the reality of the figures.
Sorry, I'm just typing away. We've got a lot of stuff happening in the background, Alistair. We've got people, we're phoning up people in the polls live, and you guessed it, Skeletor's constituency. You guessed it, guys. We're going to find out exactly what's happening with Stephen Flynn. If he loses his seat, I'm going to finish this bottle in a winner. It's what an incredible night. Again, Alistair, I can't thank you enough. One, for being a guest, but two, for being a continual source of great information, a continual source of inspiration against the SNP, and for pro-union voices. Again, I can't really sort of say enough that there is so much anti-SNP content, and maybe I'm a victim of this as well, but I really like to punch down on SNP, but I didn't really promote the union enough as I should, and as much as you do.
Well, again, I was talking about people fitting into the niche. I mean, you've been absolutely amazing in the work that you've been doing for the Scottish Family Party and in standing up for the rights of children and women against all the kind of freakery that's been going on in Holyrood. I mean, you've been an outstanding voice. I know you take a lot of flack for that, a lot of nasty flack as well, and you come through it with blazing guns, as it were. And so respect to you, because you're doing something that not very many people would want to get involved in, and a particular subject matter that a lot of people would stay away from. So well done for you for everything that you do, and for putting on this show tonight, which I think is absolutely brilliant. It's far better than listening to Nicola Sturgeon blabbering away and getting paid for it. None of us are getting paid. That was
part of the inspiration behind the broadcast, Alistair. I mean, I couldn't bear Scotland listening to this woman. And again, I don't know why she's on the show. Did they know already that the SNP was in for decimation, that people would tune in just to see her face as the results come in and just to see her wince? But again, she's got such a brass neck that she won't claim responsibility for this. Oh, well, it's John Swinney's fault. Is it John Swinney's fault, Alistair?
No, he just took on the poison. He just took on the poison chalice, didn't he? But
yes,
he'll be the one that gets the blame, because that's the way that politics works.
Maybe it's his fault.
Fine with me. Yeah, yeah. I think it was all. It all. I remember the day. I think it was you were speaking outside Holyrood, and it was it the gender reform bill or something like that, and it was from that moment on. Yeah, it was from that moment on basically, and then like a couple of months later, the that lady had an event in George Square, and what's
Kelly J. Keane?
Kelly J. Keane had an event. I went along to that and I watched it and I thought, Sturgeon has lost all these people, and this is the end of it. Because a lot of these people were kind of, maybe some of them would have been naturally supporting Sturgeon, but she had not brought them on. She had lost them, and I thought she's finished. And it just was a career ending from then on. And then you had the guy dressed up as a woman getting sent to a women's prison, and that was just the end of her. That was the end of her. And she's never apologized for that. You know, she's only just doubled down in her bloody arrogance.
Yeah.
And anyway, she's reaping the whirlwind. She's reaping the whirlwind tonight, and I'm pleased about that. Albeit she's getting paid to talk mince. But once you're a politician, you fail upwards. These people, they fail upwards,
of course they do.
You know. And so she's going to be all right forever. Unless, of course, Police Scotland decide that they've got some extra information that they want to share with the world.
Alistair, you've been a spirited guest. I would ask you, if you're going to stay up to the wee hours, please do kick about. After 1:30, we're basically open, and I'd love you to come back and give us a response. Once we see a sort of cemented view of what these seats are looking like, I would like to have you back on if you're awake and if you're kicking about as well. That'd be fantastic.
Okay, I've got a feeling I will be awake.
Okay, well, that's brilliant. Again, if you haven't already followed Alistair, UK Force for Good, we'll get all your socials up on the screen. If you've got anything to promote, Alistair?
The only thing I'd like to promote at the moment is we're running a crowdfunder. We run 2 crowdfunders a year. We run our British Summertime crowdfunder, and we run our Yo Britannia Christmas crowdfunder. So it's our British Summertime crowdfunder at the moment. It ends next Wednesday. It's at crowdfunder.co.uk/Union 2024. And we're trying to raise £1,707, 1707, which is the year of the Union of Parliaments. And today was the 75th ever British general election. The 75th ever British general election since 1707. So that has to be worth something, right? So crowdfunder.co.uk/Union 2024 if you like the work that we do. And you can tell by that figure that we don't run on very much, because this is my full-time job. You
do such a good job at it, Alistair. I honestly can't say enough just about how amazing a job you do. And sometimes it is a thankless task, Alistair, going out week by week on the stalls, promoting what it is. But not tonight, it isn't, Alistair. Not tonight.
Exactly.
I think all of Scotland is in rejoicing. And it's a celebration of all the anti-SNP voices and the pro-union voices in Scotland. And this is a celebration for us. It really is. It truly is. And yourself, you've done such an incredible job over the last, you've seen a decade plus you've been at this, Alistair, and all your hard work is paying dividends, my friend. My hat goes off to you, and a cheers to you, my friend.
Thank you. Well, cheers to you, and cheers for all the fantastic work that you're doing. And I know that your internet and video activism, as well as your physical activism, is going to go from strength to strength, because you've got the right attitude for these things, Niall, and you've got a great team around you.
Awesome.
I know that as well. So let's forward on to victory and keep going.
That's what it's about. If you're kicking about, I'll sure you'll have it back on later on. But
I'll be
with
there.
That, thanks again, Alistair. If you haven't already, give him a follow. Right, that was Alistair McConnachie of the Force for Good, ladies and gentlemen.